This is 3 Minutes Inside Torah. In this week's Parsha, Jacob travels to Egypt to reunite with Joseph, his beloved son, who he thought was killed more than 20 years earlier. On the journey, when Jacob is about to leave the land of Israel, God comes to Jacob and tells him not to be afraid of going to Egypt and promises to make him a great people there. Rashi, the medieval commentator, explains that Jacob was pained that he had to go out to a foreign land. Rashi's statement is puzzling. Commenting on the words of God telling Jacob not to be afraid, we would have expected Rashi to explain what Jacob was afraid of. Instead, he just tells us that Jacob was in pain for having to leave the land of Israel. What does he mean? Jacob was certainly concerned by bringing his entire family, the burgeoning Jewish people, down to Egypt. Ancient Egyptian culture and values went completely contrary to those which he wanted to instill in his children. The land of Israel, on the other hand, had already been spiritually influenced by Jacob's forerunners, especially his grandfather Abraham. While it's clear that Jacob had reason to worry about the negative influences in Egypt, why didn't Rashi explain that this was the cause of Jacob's fear? The Lubavitcher Rebbe reveals that unlike we previously thought, Rashi is not explaining why Jacob was afraid. He is actually coming to explain why God told him not to be afraid. Rashi explains that Jacob's pain over leaving Israel was the very reason God told him not to be afraid, that there was no reason to fear precisely because Jacob felt pain going into exile. The discomfort he felt itself removed any cause for fear. Here the Rebbe reveals a secret to surviving and thriving in exile. Whenever we feel distant or disconnected spiritually, we must never get comfortable. There should be an ever-present discomfort coming from the knowledge that I'm not where I truly belong. And this pain that we feel from being far from our promised land is itself a protection from toxic influences that surround us. As long as we feel uncomfortable in exile and live with the certainty that this is not my true place, then there is nothing to fear. And that, says the Rebbe, is the other condition for successful living in spiritual exile. No fear. No matter how dire or difficult the situation may seem, we must be confident that God has given us all of the strengths we need to overcome and succeed. In fact, it is not despite hardships and obstacles that we grow, but rather it is because of them, and through them that our hidden potential and strengths are actualized and revealed. And this is what God meant when he told Jacob, "A great people I will make you there in Egypt." Specifically there, in the depths of darkness and fragmentation, there is where you can become a great people.